live.
Jason, quiet.
Good morning. Welcome to KUHS, the stream on Melody Drive. You are watching The Boost, and I am Paul Lane, the host. I'm so excited today. We're having a repeat guest that I just love having on the show. Before we get started, normally we go through quite a few different books that have been past guests on the show. Today I'm just going to be very brief because we're a little short on time today. We're going to end a little early because of the scheduling that we have today. But I want to just talk really quickly about Dr. Alyssa Robin. She's become a very good friend of mine, and she's written this book. I have never been able to show it on the show because someone's been using it, but The Way of the Wow. If you are ever interested in your finding out about yourself or your astrological reading, psychic readings, this woman is the one to call. You can find her. She's a friend of mine on Facebook, Dr. Alyssa Robin. Please do contact her. I am the author of the book, The Caregiver's Handbook, a self-help love story, and you can find this book through the radio station or through me. Before I get started, one last thing is I got a part-time job. So I work for Mile High Seamless Gutters. Been in the same place for 40 years. And I worked for them 20 years ago, and they called me back out of retirement to come work for them. So 303-762-9841. Tell them Paul sent you. Or you can call me on my cell phone, 720-233-6262. And I'll come out and give you a free estimate.
On what?
And on your gutters, yes.
Oh, okay, my gutters.
Yes.
What are you getting?
Top notch, best in the city. I'll tell you, workman's comp, liability insurance, 40 years of experience. Best gutter company in the city. When I need gutters, I call Mile High Seamless Gutter Systems, and that's why I work there. And with that, I am going to introduce our guest. For those of you who are following me on a regular basis, you know Karina Carinosa has been a guest on my show a couple of times before. We intend to have her back many times in the future. Her book, Enlighten the Fuck Up, is a brilliant book. I've been going through it and just there's so much about. I don't know, man. I think that.
Paul, have you really been going through the book, Paul?
Yes, I have.
I don't know how many people are making time to read books today.
Well, dealing with this, it's been a little bit given a lot of extra time. But I mean, there's so many things in this book, Karina. I was just looking about humility, about forgiveness, and I think this is one of the biggest challenges that people in America face today is forgiveness, especially in this time.
The biggest reason why Americans are experiencing this psychosis is because our legal system makes everything a felony, right? So you don't have this safe space to confess what you did. It's like our families try to teach us how to be ethical and moral, but then when we go out in the real world, you can't own up to it. And so I talk a lot about like how we cop out, And it's because there's just no safe space. And so I deal all the time with relationships, where the man is expected to, be full of honor, man of his word, you give your word, your bond, but then you don't have any safe space to actually go ahead and talk about your real feelings because the people around you aren't emotionally mature enough, or somebody's going to threaten to put you in jail or disrupt your life. You know what I mean? So I really appreciate what Dave Chappelle had to say about how they ended apartheid in South Africa, where all of the corruption in the government system was preventing anybody from being able to move forward. But the people use this notion of like the Ubuntu, the I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, how can I do better? And so when we give people the space and permission to bend the knee, that it's okay to have been mistaken, hey, I fuck up, I make mistakes, how can I do differently? That's when you're able to start having this catharsis of the energy moving forward. But where we are in our society, as corrupt as government is, right now we're dealing with all of these people who have hurt people, right? So me getting to a place where I can hold safe space for not only the person who, had their lives ruined, maybe they were the result, the product of a rape or something like that, to the space where you can actually hold forgiveness and apology and compassion for the rapist as well, who had also been hurt. Like, that's what's not going on here in America right now, is where it's like, okay, hey, you know what, you fucked up, you're human, sin no more, right? And that's what Jesus was trying to teach us. It's like, when you go back and look in the history, you had all of these people who were trying to interpret the Bible, trying to interpret the Word of God, and then they would go and throw stones. But when they presented, for example, the adulterer. In the book, it talks about how they brought the woman and they wanted, she did all these bad things and she screwed this guy, but it's like, Jesus isn't trying to punish anybody. Jesus was like, okay, well, sin no more. And it also isn't going, it's like we're all real one-sided and polarized, and I just hate how people feed into that shit. I'm like, dude, I'm not a Republican, I'm a constitutionalist.
Mm-hmm.
The fuck?
Absolutely. Man, I appreciate that.
It's space for us to apologize, and I just hate how everything in this country is a fucking felony,
Mm-hmm. Yep, we've become such a litigious society that there's no room for negotiation, there's no room for communication. Everything is a chip on your
shoulder. I have to
shoulder.
raise my prices on everything just to be able to afford the back office on the fucking legal work. Yeah, like people ask me what's our next moves, and it's like, well, there's always that conflict of interest between getting the paperwork done, and paying somebody $300 an hour to get the paperwork done so that they can go pay somebody off, pretty much.
I appreciate that, really. So tell me, Karina, what's new in your life? We were talking earlier this week, and man, you got some cool stuff to share.
Oh shit! I don't know what's going on. Let's see. Last night, I got home at 4:44 this morning because I was out at a full moon drum circle bonfire, and that was fantastic. Because to be honest with you, the mushroom medicine keeps opening me up more and more. So, and the same thing is happening for the ladies in our tribe, and so everybody's finding their voice. We've got this one girl named Edith that we were doing after party. Like, we've been going every Sunday to the park at a tree. They've been playing at this drum circle at this tree for the past 20 years, can't stop, won't stop. So we're using that as an incubator to let people come in and see if they feel like tribe, and then invite them over to the after parties. And that's where we're really all learning how to sing together. So last night it was just gorgeous. I was able to record about an hour's worth of just all of these beautiful musicians here in Austin being able to find a voice together and sing together. So I'm playing choir director, and I'm getting all my spiritual tools together, and we're initiating that. I'm just trying to open up fires and save space for people to throw the fuckery in the fire, you know what I mean? Because we're seeing a lot of self-medication during COVID, and people getting stuck in little holes, digging themselves in little holes, and so I'm finding a lot of people who are secretly on meth, and I'm receiving a lot of confessions for people who are, fit to be tied, and it's like, all right, well, let's get a piece of acid and a massage gun and go have a good day.
I just love your perspective, Karina, I really do. So, last week you were able to save a marriage.
Which one?
You sent me a text that you had to save a marriage.
For example, I keep doing a whole lot more exorcism work here lately because more people are coming. Once somebody's heart opens up to the notion of it, once people realize, hey, look, you're divine, pure, and amazing, and you're a child of God, and you have all of the birthright for that flow and abundance, right? When you get there, it's like helping anybody forgive themselves, you forgiving yourself so that you can stay in that flow and that abundance. Like, if somebody gets there and the other partner in the couple isn't there, fuck, man, you get so many fights from that shit. Oh my God. So, yeah, we've just been kind of like playing like angels, going into people's homes and kind of just love bombing them into like, here's a new perspective, here's a new situation, and like pulling them out of their cave and their little hole. But yeah, I'm really excited. For example, this past weekend, we had one couple, I think they ended up taking probably 2 points of Molly each, the MDMA. We did the dopamine pills, we took them to a drum circle, and it was the most amount of fun they'd had in 6 months. It opened them all up. They've been having sexual issues. We took them home with some mushrooms, and that's what's up. I have a new client that Johns Hopkins couldn't even do anything with. This guy had 15 doctors, 2 of them from overseas. He's dealing with, so I'm always trying to help people find out the root cause, the root core of what happened. And I don't understand why most doctors don't do this, but apparently somewhere down the line, 20 years ago, this guy was about to get robbed in his car. Like, he was just sitting in the car, and some people came up, he said, and just pointed a gun at him. So they ran away. Anyway, the story is that he bashed his genital area on a fence, trying to hop over a fence, like bashed it real hard. And that caused his bladder to get out of whack. The movement of the bladder caused infection going into the prostate, erectile dysfunction. He's been living in pain, level 7 and 9 pain for 6 years. Then this guy comes to me, and one day, I give him jungle medicine. One day, yoga, I put the whammy on it, only the way that Kaina could have so we can put the whammy on it, right? One day, and this dude's pain's gone.
Wow.
15 doctors.
Wow.
13 American doctors couldn't do shit. Queen of Cunningham got it on the house. And you know what those fuckers had to say, man?
Tell
Listen
me.
to this. Look, he tells them, because as soon as he found me, of course, he told them about me. And they go, hey, look, man, if chewing on a piece of tire works, then keep on chewing on that piece of tire. And then, like, the other doctor said the same thing. I was like, but this ain't tire. This is prayer. This is going back to root trauma. This is clearing the energy. This is moving your body. This is letting shit go, you know? And I was telling him basically that, you know, his nervousness energy is kind of like being a tree that's in a pot. You know, it's not grounded enough. So they call that a bonsai. A bonsai is a tree that's not, you know, planted in the ground. And I'm like, what we got to do is just loosen up and open up all that root energy. You know, so the first day I got him, no pain. And then by his third visit, we had an exorcism. And what were we doing? We were eliminating all of the pent-up shame energy that was trapped into those areas, right? Erectile dysfunction, guys, it's a huge thing. Why, too? Because women energetically castrate their men in this country like nobody's business.
Wow.
You know, but that's also exacerbated by the fact that the government makes it impossible for people to feel, you know, comfortable getting their needs met, right? So if we bred the men to be the hunter-gatherers, right, and now we're going through an economic crisis, and you can't feed your kids, and blah, 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 those are all reasons for the woman not to feel safe, right? So she gets starting to be over-dominant and stuff, because you have those control dramas, and then all of that messed up energy will stay down in your dick. Well, so I was consulting with a colleague. I've been consulting with a couple of colleagues. I've got, you know, herbs, nutrition and stuff. I'm making them a custom capsule. And I had to buy some more jungle medicine from him the other day. So I actually asked my colleague out there in Pucallpa, Peru, out there in the jungle. And he was like, yeah, man, we just give them 3 grams of mushrooms and let them get together and let their energy vibrate. And then, yeah, he won't have erectile dysfunction anymore. I'm like, all right. So this guy is acting like an American, even though he's foreign. And he's just trying to throw money at the situation desperately. And I'm like, I'm going to keep your money, but that doesn't mean I can make you walk the walk, you know? And so I had people try to refer people to me, and I'm like, oh, hey, first thing I got to know is, do you want the healing? Because most people don't. Most people would, you know, silently prefer to play victim and get their power from that and playing the blame game, as opposed to that level of courage and integrity where you're willing to step up and say, hey, I fucked up and make mistakes. How can I do differently moving forward, right? So that's where we're at. I can bully him. I can incentivize him in ways that the other doctors can't. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's do it.
I got to tell you, I so agree with what you're saying. You know, I read a book. It was called When Healing Becomes a Crime. And it talked about the American Medical Association and how it was implemented, and how it began with a guy by the name of Morris Fishbein, and the medical profession in America is so arrogant and so closed-minded. I mean, it's like when I met you and I started seeing your medicinal options, and it's like, this is the kind of doctor America needs, man.
Yes, your words, I agree.
Yes.
I mean, but that's the thing, like, so for example, my daughter is starting college. I had to give her away. I had to give up my child for adoption so that I would have the time to focus to study. I've been studying for 25 years, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that shit, you have to have the proper causes and conditions to get to this point. And frankly, you know, people ask me, where have you studied? And I'm like, everywhere but here. Like, that level only got me to like age 23, and then I was like, I'm done with this. Like, now I have x-ray vision. You know, like, now I can go in and open up the space energetically and ask into your heart, mind, body, soul, and being, what is that? And then I can find the core trauma of that, and I'll see the energy. So it's weird. I see a lot of birth trauma, you know, because this country doesn't let us come out the, you know what I mean?
Yes,
so,
I do. Yes, I do. You know, this big...
Yeah, it's just really funny to me that, you know, they want to sell me a $70,000 gallstone surgery as opposed to letting it be okay for me to look up on YouTube and find out, oh, plum flower. Mm-hmm. You know, oh, the green skin from an apple. Oh, maybe that's why an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So when I went to Panama and I found out that there were doctors who would prescribe a bushel of bananas, mm-hmm. I was like, fuck yeah, that makes sense.
Heck yes. Heck yes. Yeah, it's all out there, man. We just have to go out and be able to, you know, willing to search and to be open-minded, because...
Man, open up people's will is the funniest thing, because they don't want to be wrong, and then it's not safe to admit that you don't know.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, everybody wants to be a fucking expert.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you can be an expert on what you're an expert on, but not everything.
You bet. You know, I'm going to disclose this. I've been treated for depression in my lifetime, and, well, the doctors are always trying to prescribe me this antidepressant or that antidepressant, and I don't take them.
Oh, I mean, I got the cure.
But we go back and forth, and the last time a doctor asked me, why are you so adamantly against these antidepressants? I said, number one and only reason is because of the side effect, suicidal tendencies. You're going to give me a medicine to help, and it's going to make me kill myself. And if I take it, I have to do it with the doctor's care. No, I'm not taking it.
Well, I have a solution for all that. So once people have been verified, this is how it goes. You give me a call, we do your initial interview, and it's a psych eval, but it's a cool one where I actually listen to you, and I'm actually going to drag out of you the kinds of answers that are going to culminate, you know, mm-hmm. form an hypothesis. How do we tune your router? How do we set your IP address? Mm-hmm. You know, like I had to disarm a schizophrenic person this weekend who showed up to a party of 200 people, and I think he had a vial of acid as well. A vial of acid, a 9mm, 2 knives, and he was running around accusing people of stealing his money. And I was the one, you know? And I was just like, well, anyway, my point is people are getting crazy out there. So what I've done is I've created this dopamine pill. A gentleman went out of his way to explain in a video all of the precursors to creating dopamine in your gut microbiome. So here's that word again. Your gut microbiome accounts for up to 70% of all your happy chemicals, your serotonin, oxytocin, etc. So this dopamine formula, it's just vitamin B's, C vitamins, some precursors to creating dopamine. I was like, all right, booyah, let me go ahead and throw some spirulina on that and a couple other things, and like, it's completely a replacement for antidepressants. I was trying to take like Wellbutrin, that wasn't doing it. This stuff though, it prevents you from dwelling. It enables you to just be like, oh hey, that sucks. Really, fuck that. You know, but like you can move on with your life. So instead of having, I'll take a minimum of 2 a day for consistency, and then if you're having a real rough day, 3 up to 4 of them. Mm-hmm. And so what people are using that for is not only their own daily like replacement for medications. But we also use that to support any of the other medicines that you want to do for journeying. So like say for example, you've got a cold, dead, crusty heart full of anger and resentment because you've been cooped up with this person that you're sick of seeing every day, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. So start with 4 of them, go a week doing that, and then add into it maybe some MDMA therapy with some raw cacao and some chocolate so you can ground your heart and get centered and let some shit go. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And they're only $1 a piece. I'm like, I'm going to hire Jay Leno to be like, we'll make more like Doritos, you know what I mean? It's going to fucking work.
So tell me about these bonfires that you have. Do you treat people while you're there, or do you just really celebrate, or do you embrace? What do you do?
Well, you know, in Austin, we have the live music capital of the world, so we have a whole lot of individual talented people, musical talented people. So we have a number of drums and people who know how to play on them or who have played in bands and such. Nice. I would say our core group of folks is somewhere between 60 to 350 people. And which is a big number, you know, that's core. Core folks who do that.
Wow.
And yeah, so we have the drum circle that's out in public where everybody can come and join, and that's sort of an incubator to see who has the emotional maturity to come get in and really flow. And then the bonfires are about that, you know. So for example, last night we were out there and the clouds just kept creating this beautiful halo, rainbow halo over the full moon. And then after I finally finished and we stopped singing. About an hour and a half later, the clouds went ahead and closed up. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning and everything packed up. So, okay, good night.
Nice, nice.
We've done that before where we apparently we sang off a hurricane or some shit. I don't know if that was the night that I was receiving downloads, but I was receiving downloads for 5 hours. It was like, wow. We'd actually had 2 instances of lightning striking the tree on a Sunday while we're over there. And like, so for example, last Sunday, we were remembering, memorializing this guy named Leslie. In Austin, Texas, any of the old timers know that Leslie was one of the symbols for freedom and liberal democracy. That when people didn't know who to vote for because all the options were too corrupt, they would just write Leslie into the ballot. And this is like some gay guy who runs around in a thong on a bicycle with like a baby hanging out, like a stuffed toy baby hanging off the back. Like wearing a thunder thong in front of the state capitol. Like, hey, just being out in the crowd as much as he could. And so we were talking about this guy and how we were trying to resurrect and retain that spirit of Leslie, when our friend who is carrying a happy face flag, he's wearing this thong, we were talking about him and comparing him to Leslie, suddenly, boom, he gets a jolt and grounds to the ground. I think he got electrocuted, to be perfectly honest, because he went, woo, and then his face was completely covered in dirt. He was totally disoriented for a little while. I was like, that has happened in front of me like 4 times before. One time I was at the Envision Festival in Costa Rica, which is where like the West Coast party culture comes down, and then all of the backpacker tourism goes through Costa Rica and Panama. And I was in the VIP healing tent, and we were singing Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om. And then boom, the girl in charge got lit up and grounded down to the ground, and was like, ooh, I just received a download.
Wow, wow.
Oh, I was doing an exorcism at the Monkey Tree a few weeks ago. And basically all this is, you can identify it as you've got an insatiable monkey mind that will not let you rest, right? It's insatiable. That's one how you identify a demon, all right? Or a discordant frequency that is external that you should stop identifying it, right? And I was just like, well, what's the problem? The anger and resentment in his heart about how he doesn't feel that his family understands him, and how is he supposed to accept in this new family as total fucking strangers and forgive the trespasses, you know what I mean? So he couldn't surrender that. He couldn't do the I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And all I was trying to do was just get this dude to put his forehead on the ground and give it to Mother Earth, right? Because we have to strap in. That's the only thing we got, is to hold on to the fucking rocket of the earth and go, you know? So, but he just couldn't do it. He just couldn't, you know, it just wouldn't let him or whatever. Wow. So I was working with him for a long time away from the group, just trying to get him to put his forehead on the ground. He couldn't do it. And then finally I was able to get him to be like, okay, come back to the group and accept maybe that it's all right to let these people into your life. It's all right to be loved. And the strangers, the boys, the brothers got together, I explained to them real quick, and they hugged all over him real good, and they say, hey man, you know, sometimes you just gotta chop back your family tree. So that resonated. Wow. So then he goes, oh, okay, and the thing popped off where he let it go, and it popped into me, because I'm the one who takes it and makes sure it doesn't go anywhere, right? Well, at that moment, I was hitting a pipe, and I started coughing, and this thing would not let me stop coughing. I go out into the group, and people should come. I was like, no, hold on, I'm exercising this demon. And I remembered, let me go just put my head on the ground. So I go over, I put my head on the ground, and this thing takes me, I mean, I got COVID sick. I got fucking sick for about a minute. And then I just put my head on the ground, asked the mother to take it, and all of the energy went, across the roots. Wow. And then, man, 30 seconds later, this woman about 10 feet away goes, hey, did anybody lose a crystal? I go, yeah, actually, I might have lost a crystal. And she pulls up this crystal pyramid from the grass, like all, I was like, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you exercise a demon. Wow. All you gotta do is just put your head on the ground. Just surrender that shit. Stop trying to be in control of that pain, right? If it hurts, it's a lie, it's out of alignment, let it go.
Man, that's incredible. So when you prescribe doses to people of different elements, I'm sure you've had a lot of background and study, and so is it selective to each individual, or do you have like just a standard dose?
Yeah.
Very.
Part of the standard is colloidal silver.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things for this guy, for the client that had so many doctors, is they were saying it wasn't an infection. However, it would respond very well to antibiotics. So the antibiotics messed up his guts for a long time.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we have a whole, like in general, there's general protocol that every single human should do, right? Everybody needs to do these detoxing protocols. And then depending on, how fat you are and then what kind of fat that is, like if it's a bunch of processed drive-through food, that detox process would be different, than somebody who doesn't eat out, for example, or somebody who doesn't eat a whole lot of meat and cheese. Mm-hmm. So if you eat a lot of meat and cheese, your dosage for your mushrooms or whatever might need to be double high because your rate of absorption is so much less.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So when we're going to talk about how to heal your body, the first thing we've got to do is remove that layer of mucus and plaque. And then once you do that and you get your body into the receptive healing mode, you have to stop sabotaging and ambushing it with the shit that kills you. You know what I mean? So your dosage, like for example, how much do you weigh?
189.
And how tall are you?
5'6".
Okay, so I would say, if you were going to do some mushrooms, your body size should probably go ahead and start with 2 grams of the penis envy mushrooms, which are really, really strong. A lot of people will start with just 1, but I would say you probably got a little bit more for us to break through initially, so you want a little bit bigger of a blast, right? There's a fantastic movie I think I told you about. It's called Fantastic Fungi.
We watched it. It was incredible.
Yeah,
What
about Paul
you said.
Stamets. And yeah, so if Paul Stamets, as a regular sized man, can take, probably a 10 gram dose. But I would say if you're by yourself, don't take more than 2.5 grams. Have chocolate in your diet. Make sure that we have like watermelon juice so that you're able to stay very alkaline and hydrated. You won't get headaches. And then we use the dopamine formulas to, 1, help you get there, and then 2, to help you make sure that you don't have mood swings.
Mm-hmm. Mood swings. So
the mood swings happen because of the depleted nutrition, though. So, say for example, this past weekend we went hard. I had all my guys get together. They had their first date, taking care of me. I got to play and have a good time. And so the things that kept us going was the dopamine pills, the watermelon juice, trying not to smoke cigarettes just because that's, trying to breathe in air and oxygen. That's one thing that I love so much about acid, is I always find myself just stopping to breathe in. Mm-hmm. So, you can just get your little piece of acid and take your little quarter piece. They have been doing studies. They're going to open up an FDA-approved study for MDMA and acid together. It's one of the first times in history for the past 40, 50 years or something. I'm like, yeah, bro, we do that all the time. So what we do is we'll take a 100 microgram dose of acid, which is a regular piece of paper acid. We'll take 1 point of the pure MDMA, the ecstasy, and then we'll take 1 gram of either the penis envy mushroom or the albino penis envy seeds. Like I told you, the albinos are particularly good for curing the complex PTSD, the soul fragmentation. So when you're feeling beside yourself, you know what I mean? That's where we use that medicine. But we're always now I put chocolate into everything because it gives your brain, your jaws, all of that essential mineral nutrition from the earth that we lack.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got to tell you, we ordered some from you once and a few months back, and I loved it. I really loved it. You sent me something, and I'm going to say it right here. I didn't take it correctly because I was afraid. It was, but I'm ready to.
I gave you your dose, and you were afraid. You took it half and half, and so that's why I give people microdoses. You don't hear a lot of people, especially in the shamanic community, really talking about microdoses.
Yes.
Because the shaman that come over typically are serving ayahuasca. And they have to travel for a long time. And so they'll make these groups of, 20, 30, 50, 60 people. I'm not trying to take my medicine with a whole bunch of people like that. I don't like to serve it like that. So, I'm going to give you your dose. This is the amount that if you took all of this by yourself, you wouldn't kill yourself. Yep. And then you were afraid, and that's all right. So now you've I got wet, but now I'm ready to go dive.
But I got to say this, it was so cool. I mean, I had a fantastic experience in spite of the fact that I did it incorrectly. The MDMA, oh my gosh, that stuff, I just, and I would have never even thought of doing that before. And it's like, this was so cool. I'm doing it again.
So for your viewers, if you're going to explain to people, what would you describe as like your mindset before, if you can give me a scale from 0 to 10, 10 being like extreme suffering, like where was your state of mind before, right before, and then afterwards?
Oh, I was very tense. It was right in the midst of the COVID. I was very stressed out about life. I was very unsure. I was really stressed out about it, really. And I'm sorry?
Feeling very COVID crunk.
COVID crunk. I mean, that was exactly what it was, because we were fresh into it. And so what I did was I took it, and man, I just felt, well, first I felt really happy, and I felt really relaxed. I felt like my guard was coming down. I really felt this feeling of liberation, I think is the word. And all of a sudden there was a knock on the door, and this insurance guy came, and he pushed his way in the door, and he said, well, I'm here to help you and give you insurance. And I said, what are you doing here? I didn't invite you here. Get the fuck out of the house. I told him.
You had to deal with an exorcism. You had an energy vampire come into your place, right? As you're doing your XC experience. That's crazy, dude.
I had a 30-year-old kid, and I said, I'm a high-risk person, and you're coming in. You didn't wear a mask. You didn't have any respect for my family, and get out of my house. So that took a little while to calm down. But man, once that happened, I have to tell you, I went and laid down with my girlfriend, and we embraced, and I have never been in an embrace like this. I mean, I felt like we were just so entwined. I felt like literally one human. There's just no words to explain how I felt. And I mean, it was not just physiological. It was spiritual. It was incredible. And
so what I did just now is muscle testing, and I teach people about Dr. David Hawkins, who has the map of human consciousness from 0 to 1,000. 1,000 is the most amount of life that the human body can hold. In the 900s, where it becomes ineffable, where the words are difficult, that's that level of oneness, right? Where you just kind of morph into everything all at once, where you don't feel the separation between me and my physical body and you and your heart space. All of it becomes one. And what you're describing, I'm doing right here, was testing your level of consciousness at that time. And your highest level of consciousness was about 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 876, which is right below that level. So 850 is nirvana. Nirvana is between 850 to 899, where it's like you're on cruise control, where you've set the trajectory. I want to feel love. I'm going to go back home, and then Source is there taking care of it on autopilot so you can relax and enjoy and flow.
Man, that makes sense. I got to say that I felt enlightened. I just felt a level of enlightenment, a level of peace. I just can't even explain it, even my words that were coming out of my mouth.
And you see how powerful that was?
Oh, it was wonderful. Really. Yes.
And so that's what the book is trying to teach people, is that your level of power, the power of your thought frequency, how far out that can radiate, becomes logarithmically, exponentially more powerful. So then if I'm stuck in fear, grinding and being vengeful or whatever, that nut that I'm creating only can reverberate so far. Whereas if I explode that open, the breath of God coming into everything, now everything has a creative expansion beyond control. Right? And so that's what it's really doing. The creators of original marketing in the United States was the nephew of Sigmund Freud. And the first effort that they did was in the 1920s, Philip Morris hired them to get a bunch of women in the 1920s to march down in a parade with these cigarettes in their hands so that they could have their own dicks. Right? So that's like, who's got the big dick? Oh, shit.
There.
You there?
On and off.
Sorry.
So that was their psychological
those are psychological things, so that the women could have some kind of measure of control, right? And so what you see here now, I tell people about the spirit of smoking, and I'm like, this demon is preventing you from taking in the breath of God.
Wow.
Okay?
Oh, man.
And it's that ego-ness that has to be in control, that's just comfortable doing this, being part of the monkey mind, as opposed to stop, chi, prana, God, life force, energy.
Yes.
Right? And that marketing is all about trying to keep you like this, where it's easier to be controlled and sold.
I so agree. In your book, you talk about your perception of God, and it depends on your level of enlightenment or your level of presence.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really profound because, you know, we all have our perception of God, and so many people have so many broad spectrum of who God is or what God is, and yet I think that we are all incorrect to some degree. I think that there has to be a level of that enlightenment, that awareness, that...
Right. Well, that's one of the things that I do with people, depending on what medicine we're going to do will depend on their level of perception of how God is. And so what we're talking about for everybody out there, there's this map called the Map of Human Consciousness. It looks like a rainbow, royally big, red at the bottom. These are your root emotions and feelings, right? And so when you're stuck in guilt, blame, and shame, your perception on God is that it's punitive and punishing, and I did this because I deserve this or whatever. That's that base frequency of thought and feeling. The whole thing about God is showing us what happens when we get to the end of ourself. So when we talk about what is ego death, that surrender is about being able to go to the end of my rope and know that I can, land in a feather pillow bed, as opposed to I'm going to go and get raped and berated and all that kind of stuff. So that's how we do that to ourselves based on our level of self-love. And then as we get that love in ourselves more and more, we can feel that God eternal life force within the body, as Terrence McKenna said. And then the more and more you are really centered into remembering the truth of who you are, your divinity, your amazing power, right? There's different levels of that. That'll get mixed in with your ego. And so you're constantly excavating things from a new perspective, right? You might have to go back to forgiving the situation from different levels of consciousness and God. And so, like, I see people all the time, for example, they can't forgive themselves. They'll ask God for forgiveness. They hold themselves separate from forgiveness because they don't know how to show compassion to themselves. It wasn't shown to them. Right? And so then maybe they'll get tested with something that just really fucking forces them to practice unconditional love. And then once you practice that kind of unconditional love for somebody who hurt you so bad in your family or for yourself, then you can go ahead and show that to a stranger and maybe to the oligarchs who need for us to pray the fuck over them.
Oh boy, man, don't we?
Right?
Talk a little bit about the condition of our country right now and the division that we have and what's your perspective on that?
Stop talking about it. Stop talking about it and just sit down and shut the fuck up and smile and pray and breathe in and give thanks for this moment, even if you don't understand it. I mean, the thing is before you can build a new house, you have to have construction, deconstruction, demolition. You have to rebuild completely some of our ways of thinking, our ways of how we do things, and it's going to require everybody taking back their own permission as an individual sovereign to do what needs to get done. Like, I'm not sitting around bitching, being polarized about this anymore. I did that 10 years ago. When however long is it, 20 years ago. When I saw 9/11 happen, that's when I was fucking paying attention. So if you're just now getting on board, guys, yes, expect yourself to be angry, but I don't have time to hear that. I want to see how you're transmuting that pain into fuel for the fire of your heart to drop love bombs on everybody and be like, fuck them, we're divine human. The power of my hug, fuck your mask. I got hugs. I got people, I will go kiss somebody's feet to show you how unafraid I am of fucking COVID. Why? Because God made colloidal silver. God's got an answer for everything, but if you sit there and watch the news to tell you what that answer is, it's a conflict of interest, bro, so just turn that off and go inside.
Folks, if you're just joining us...
I don't want to sit around and listen to a bunch of women squawking and yakking. I want to go into a prayer circle.
Guys, I just want to do a station break. If you're just joining us, I'm Paul Lane. You're watching the Weekend Boost on KUHS, the stream on Melody Drive. We're talking to Karina Carinosa. She is a shaman. She lives in Austin, Texas. She spent some time in South America, quite a bit of time, and did her studies, and she's She's here in America, and she's touching people's lives, making a difference. She is the author of the book Enlighten the Fuck Up. And you can get this book where, Karina?
You can call me up. You can go to enlightenthefuckup.org. You can give me a call at 512-265-1344. I've got a couple of badass links, some videos, clips from our other conversations. And so you can download the app. I have an app called Powerful Energetic Medicines on your app store. And you can check into the pharmacy or go, get a sample. Yes. It's all there. I make it easy. It's willing to learn. You can pretty much learn for free.
That's exactly what it is. It's just, it's all online and it's all on your website, and there's so much detail on there. I think that enlightenment is really the word of the century that we need to really focus on. Eckhart Tolle said, we're a new earth. We're coming into an age of enlightenment, and your book is so well timed, and I think it's so appropriate for especially this time. And I'm just so grateful that you're able to put that information out there.
I'm trying to get the balls to put more of it out there, though, because the thing is everything in this country is illegal, right? So there's a lot of stuff that I'm talking about that makes perfect sense that the books still aren't there for it yet. Yeah. So I'm like, enjoy your opportunity to get into the same time, space, physical dimension now while you can, because I'm going back to Panama and Hawaii, bro.
Are you?
Now, I'm a telepathic distance Reiki master, so yes, I can give you the juju from heaven out there in paradise. But I mean, come with it. We're going to you asked me what I'm up to. We're going to go to Panama. I'm actually marrying my Panamanian best friend, and we're going to have a little beautiful wedding on Valentine's Day over in the flower-crusted mountain range. And I'm going to go back and get the house that I lived in. So I had to heal from a really abusive, drug-addicted relationship, and I had to separate from my husband, so I went off on the mountains, on the side of the mountain, to heal for a really long time. I met my first energetic shaman, who happened to be 34 at the time. He didn't use any ayahuasca or any of those kinds of things. He was just an energy master. And I was like, well, if he can achieve that level of attainment at his age, then I want to go for it too. And I heard somebody say that the Buddhists say that if you want to achieve enlightenment, you're destined for it. And if not, then let's talk about some fucking enrealment. Let's get real.
Oh, I like that word. I like that word.
Real about the fact that just because you have extraordinarily strong emotional charge around an idea doesn't make it true. If it hurts, there's untruth in it.
Yep.
So when you want to talk about what is God and your perception toward all of that, first start with what feels right and easy and flowy. And I guarantee you there's going to be courage, there's going to be integrity, there's going to be forgiveness, there's going to be compassion. And when I can't muster that for myself, I just beg Jesus for it. I'm like, come on, Lord Jesus, show me some of that forgiveness and mercy, because I ain't got none of my own. Come on. And that's how I handle going through all this shit. And so you asked me about, the formulas that I make. So for the COVID coping cure, I just get into my zone and I ask my intuition and everything, what is going to be the most beneficial recipe for me to heal this? What's the answer? What's the solution? So the main difference is that my will is always attuned to what's the highest truth of light, joy, and compassion. So I'm trying to figure out what the truth is. I'm just always insisting, the divine master in me, insisting that it has to be the highest truth, love, light, joy, and compassion, that I cannot allow myself to be misguided. I don't allow the demons, the frequencies, the energy vampires to trick me. They like to chameleon. I smurf that shit so that it can't hide, and that way I can't be taken advantage of. And so these are the kinds of sixth senses, to handle I had an off-duty officer knock on my door the other day. I had to disarm a crazy man with a 9mm gun, and that's the third fucking time. I had a guy 4 months ago who showed up to our drum circle with a gun in his car. He was going to commit suicide, but instead he found the church family, and now he's all better. And he saved $12,000 by switching to Karina. You know what I mean? So you just have to be the mantra that I try to start people with is simply, I allow this day to turn out more magical than I can imagine. Because that is a surrender of my imagination, ego, and will to the higher will through abiding faith. And that abiding faith, that remembering that I'm always safe and protected, and then giving it the space to show me. right? I tell people all the time the reason why I'm such a good storyteller, why I have such crazy stories, is because I put the ultimatum. My ego says to God, hey, serve that up more magical than I can imagine. You know, I like it free, right? So make it magical and free and cheap, and I'll be like, and make it more magical than I can imagine so that I can testify in your name.
Sweet. Sweet. Hey, talk about, I know I lost your visual, but talk about ego. You mentioned ego a few times, and I know that ego is really probably one of our biggest detriments to success and to communication, to relationships. What's your perspective on ego, and how do we address ego both in ourselves and in others? Is that I don't know if that's even a valid question, but what's your take on that?
A healthy ego is one that is willing to wear the student cap. I am an expert about many things, but I am not the ultimate expert about anything. And if you can remember that, instead of getting indignant while you're telling a point, you know, it's like, yeah, you might have a point and you might be totally right, but if you can't speak in a way that the other person can hear you so that they can attune to your level, so it's an openness and a willingness to let people come into agreement. Whereas indignation is this ego thing that says, you know, it's only me being right now and you have to be wrong in return.
It's a
right, so it's an openness for people, for everybody to be right, for everything to be all right.
And the other
not. And so when most people talk about bad ego or unhealthy ego, for example, we give away our power a lot. And like where I am right now, the codependence mechanisms, the old ways of being, of how we used to get our money, where women would get their money from the man, and the man would be in control. All of that shifting, right? Because women can work for themselves now. And if we have equal pay or are more successful or whatever, now that shifts the paradigm of what we need men to do. We don't need men to go gather and hunt and be the bacon winners as much as we need them to be codependent and able to use their words and well-trained, you know, in the house, you know?
Yes, I agree.
Speak growth. Can you be in your balance so that I can soften and be in my balance? And our American society doesn't really lead us to that, right? So, like, for example, I travel to Dallas about once a month right now, and I was doing some yoga. I was having a stressed out day. Doing some yoga, did a little bit of ketamine, which lasts about like 30 minutes or so. I was doing my yoga in the ground in Dallas, and I was like, okay, Dallas, what you got to tell me, you know? Tell me what it is here. And it was showing me this massive ego in Texas of the big bird, you know? Big bird, you know, like fucking Dallas Cowboy style. And with the kings and the princesses and the crowns and the big mums, you know, and just all of that pride energy that needed safe space for greater expansion beyond this identity, right?
Yes.
And so I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? And it said, create the Queen's Castle, right? In a Queen's Castle, there's certain behavior because we have standards. And if you want to attract a goddess, you got to show up, you know? And that requires the women to have the emotional maturity to create the safe space. I am the mistress to thousands of people because I am the one willing to listen without, you know, having to point at you and make you the wrong guy, you know? And I can start making somebody wrong after a while and be like, no, look, you're fucking up. And I can start advocating on the side of the other person, but just being able to come out of a situation where I'm letting them express themselves. I'm not gaslighting them and stopping them through a text message box. I'm just giving them some space to air their laundry, you know? That's the part that women have to get okay with, because, you know, when you start talking about enlightenment, yeah, it's not monogamy in the same traditional sense. You can get polyamorous. You can get the capacity to love multiple people. And so then you've got to deal with all of that character and the courage, you know, to handle that level of light. Yeah, and a lot of relationships steal light from each other in different ways. We do these energy grabs. They're called control dramas. So people need to figure out what your control dramas are and how you're going to stop and check each other and create safe space so that you guys can be in this learning container together all the time. And unfortunately, you know, once you start picking on somebody's buttons, that's when you need to stop and take some medicine and yeah, call me. Because I don't pick on people like that, and I don't let people pick on me like that. You know what I mean? That's why I live alone and don't have kids, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm gonna sleep over there if you're not gonna have sex with me today. You know? I'm just like giving people permission to make their own paradigm outside of what a social norm is. That's enlightenment right there.
Well, folks, we've about run out of time. Unfortunately, we have a lot of programming that we have to make room for. So we will be wrapping up early today. And gosh, Karina, I'm so grateful to have you as a friend. And we'll continue after this. I'm going to call you after this, and we'll talk about this next dose. But we've been talking to Karina Carinosa, the author of Enlighten the Fuck Up, out of Austin, Texas. She is a shaman. She's a woman of wisdom and a woman of great insight, and a friend of mine. Folks, find this book. Order it for yourself. It needs to be on your bookshelf.
EnlightenTheFuckUp.org. Just give me a call, 512-265-1344, and you can go to powerfulenergeticmedicines.com or on Facebook, or
And with that,
Energetic Medicine.
I wish you all the best holiday weekend. I hope that your life is blessed, fulfilled, and happy. And Karina, thank you so much for being my guest, and we will be having you again soon. Have a great weekend.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
All right.
Stay blessed. Stay well.
Yes,
Make sure
you
get
too.
the help. Don't hide.
Nope.
Stop digging the hole.
I'm on it. Too cool. Yeah, let me turn this music back up over here. I got all these controls.